Selecting the load for the 9mm Luger round is no different than selecting it for any other cartridge. As we go into in more detail on the video, specifically about manuals and load selection, I strongly recommend to the very beginning reloader that you limit the brand of bullets that you purchase to one, and that you limit the family of powders that you select to one family. That way you can get the manual for each and have the highest degree of probability of overlap in the data. And the reason for this is simple. The safest possible practice for new reloaders is to find an exact formula in two mainstream credible reloading manuals to know that you're in the right place for a starting load. Obviously you always want to start at the minimum, but the challenge is you can find loads for what seems to be the same bullet and powder combination in different places, where the minimum charge in one manual actually exceeds the maximum charge in another. And so this is where it gets particularly confusing and potentially dangerous for the new reloader. So as you can see from behind me here, the vast majority of the bullets I have in stock are Hornady. So Hornady is one of my principal manuals among the various manuals that I have. Hodgdon is the principal powder that's most readily available in my part of the country, which is why the Hodgdon manual there is also then my second primary go-to manual. For the 9mm Luger, as with all semi-automatic rounds, I recommend to the very beginning new reloader that you choose round nose bullet configurations, simply because there's no point in having feeding issues complicate your learning curve for reloading. However, we couldn't come up with an exact proper load in two comparable manuals for the round nose 9 mils that I had in stock. So we're going to instead use the 9mm 124 grain XTP, which is an extremely popular and widely loaded bullet, and even though it's not a round nose configuration, it's not prone to feeding issues, so I think we're going to be fine. Now, I found the 124 grain XTP in 9mm in the Hornady catalog, the manual. However, I could not find that exact bullet in the Hodgdon manual. There are other brands in that similar size and weight range. There are also some lead bullets that are in that range. However, that's not good enough to come up with two identical matching loads. Now, fortunately, the brand new Lyman 50th catalog for their 9mm Luger specifically uses the Hornady XTP in the 124 grain configuration, right down to the exact part number, as their example for their 124 grain jacketed hollow point bullet for their listing. Now, why they use the names of the actual bullets in the summary information and not in the individual information, I don't know, but the reality is this is that exact bullet. So if we can find an exact powder in both with a quantity in both that works, then we're good to go. It happens to be that the unique powder, which is a very old powder, was actually formulated originally in the late 1800s, but is still very much in use today and very popular today. The unique formula here starts at exactly 4.0 grains in the 50th anniversary book, and it's also exactly 4.0 grains of unique for the starting load in the Hornady manual. So that's going to be our starting load. So that suffices for our review of the manuals and the load selection process. In our very next video, we're going to proceed then to discussing the supplies and the information that we need to get started.